Picking up where we left off at, we're on problem C here. We're finishing up this section. So what we have here, we had 32x squared, 28xy, and 3y. Now if you notice, there's not one term that all three of these terms have in common except one. So we'll list our A, B, and C. A is 32, B is a negative 28, and C is also 3. Now, what we would do is we would multiply our A and C. A is 32, but we know C is 3. So our number here is 96. So now we do the factors of 96. We have 1 and 96, 2 and 48. We have 3 and 32. We will have 4 and 24. We will have 6 and 16. Let me see, 7 doesn't go, but 8 does. We have 8 and 12. Let me see, 9, 10, 11. Yes, I think that is it. Yeah. So what we would do here is this here. We notice that we have a positive A times C, but we have a negative B. So that means we must put our negative sign on each one of these values. I don't know why these keep disappearing, but I guess we just have to deal with it. So these are the negative signs here. We know it goes with each one of these terms. Okay, now when we add these values, the two values that we will have is a negative 4 and negative 24, because that would give us our negative 28. So we will write this down. We will have 32x squared minus 4xy minus 24xy plus 3y squared. Now we group the first two values here. The only thing that we have in common here, we have 4x. And that will leave us 8x minus y. Now with our second two values, we have negative 24xy plus 3y squared. And they have a minus 3y in common. And that will leave 8x minus y. Now our final answer would be 4x minus 3y times 8x minus y. And that is our final answer. So now we go on to D. Let me draw a little line here to separate this. We go here to D. Now we have 9p squared, 12p cubed, and 4q squared. They have nothing in common between these three terms. So we go off to the side. They are in proper order. So we list our A, B, and C. A is 9, B is 12, and C is 4. Now we multiply our A and C. We know A times C will give us 9 times 4, which is 36. Now we do the factors of 36. We have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and also 6 and 6. Okay, since everything is positive, our A times C is positive and our B is positive, we would just add all these numbers together. And the two numbers that work here is 6 and 6 because that gives us 12 for our B. So we have 9p squared plus 6pq plus 6pq plus 4q squared. Now we group the first two terms here. 9p squared and 6pq has 3p in common. So that will leave 3p plus 2q. Now we go here, 6pq and 4q squared. They only have 2q in common, so it's a positive 2q. Now in this parenthesis, we have 3p plus 2q. Now, we'll write our final answer. We had 3p plus 2q. We'll write one of the two repeating parentheses, and then this also leaves us 3p plus 2q. Now these two parentheses are the same. Now you can have this as your final answer, or you could write it as one parenthesis, but then you square it. So either one of these are acceptable answers if the parentheses are exactly the same. Now, we scroll down here to our last two problems, E and F. Now we look here at E. E, we look at this problem here. They have some numbers in common here. 12, 28, and 8. All of them have 2 in common. K cubed, K squared, and K has K in common. So we will factor out 2K, and we'll be left with 6K squared minus 14K plus 4K. Now, if you notice here, I did not factor out the greatest common factor. Now, this is a case in point as to why we always factor out the greatest common factor, because now we have to go back and factor out again because we didn't take out the highest number they have in common. So, if we go back and factor this again, let me just put an X through this. What we will find is the greatest common factor is 4K. Not 2K, but 4K. So we'll have 4K on the outside. We have 3K squared minus 7K plus 2. Now we concentrate on the inside of this parenthesis here. Now we have nothing in common between these three terms. So now what we must do is list our A, B, and C. Now our A here is 3, our B is -7, and our C is 2. So we multiply A and C, which would be 3 times 2, which is 6. And the factors of 6 are 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. Now, our A and C gave us a positive number, but our B is negative. So that means that all of these values would be negative. So this will give us our -7, and -1, and -6. So we will go here, and we had 3K squared minus 1K minus 6K plus 2. Now we group the first two terms. We can factor out a K, and we'll be left with 3K minus 1. We'll group the second two terms here, and we can factor out a -2, and that'll give us 3K minus 1. So in one of our parentheses, we'll have 3K minus 1, which is the 2 repeaters. And in the other parenthesis, we'll have everything that's left outside, which is, I made a little error here. It'll be K minus 2 in the second parenthesis. Now, we have to bring down this 4K. So 4K will go in front, and this is our final answer. Okay, now, we'll go to F, which is the last problem here. We look at 20, 38, and 12. They all have 2 in common. We have x cubed, x squared, and x, and we have these y's. So we know it'll be 2xy that they have in common. So that will leave us 10x squared minus 19x plus 6. Now they have nothing else in common. So now we will list our A, B, and C. Our A is 10, our B is -19, and our C is 6. So we multiply our A and C. 10 times 6 is 60. Now, we're going to write this out, the factors of 60. You have 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, and 6 and 10. And that is it for our factors of 60. Now, if you notice here, our A and C is positive, but our B is negative. So that means that each one of these values would be negative. Now, what I'm going to do here, the two values that we'll concentrate on here is a -14 and -15. But remember, all the rest of the values are supposed to be negative as well. -14 plus a -15 will give us that -19. So we will have 10x squared minus 4x minus 15x plus 6. Now we group the first two values here, and we can factor out a positive 2x and we'll be left with 5x minus 2. Our second two values here, we could factor out a minus 3, and we'll be left with 5x minus 2. So our final answer would be, in one parenthesis, we'll have everything on the outside, and the other parenthesis, we'll have one of the two repeaters. So this is our final answer. Oh, actually it's not. Our final answer, we have to bring down this 2xy. We had 2x minus 3 and 5x minus 2. And this is our final answer.